You are surrounded. Step out with your hands where we can see them. I was barefoot, coffee steaming in my hand, standing on my front porch in nothing but boxers when that megaphone barked. And if you've ever felt the world tilt, that was my tilt. 4 sheriff deputies crouched behind squad cars at my gate, guns out, and behind them stood Tammy Grayson, clutching a laminated HOA badge like it was a medal for bravery. She smiled like someone watching the punchline of a joke she wrote. My name's Kyle Bennett. I'm 39, a former construction engineer who sold his design firm and bought an 18-acre patch of land to get away from people like Tammy, nosy, petty, power-hungry. I wanted chickens, open sky too. Labradors named Scout and Duke, and a place where the loudest law would be the rooster at dawn. I did my homework. Deed checked, lawyer, double-checked property confirmed outside the Hawthorne Ridge HOA. No HOA, no rules, my rules. That was the pitch. Reality arrived as soon as the drone did. At first, it was a white quadcopter that liked my roofline. I thought tech kids. I thought prank. Then it came the same time, 3 mornings in a row, hovering over my solar panels like it had a subscription to my life. Day 4, I shot it down with a BB gun. Yeah, maybe impulsive, but that's when Tammy showed up, clipboard bob haircut, and the kind of smile that hides teeth. Welcome, she said, and slid a welcome package with a list of violations inside. Noise, non-approved structures, livestock beyond tolerance. Her smile got worse. Fines showed up in my mailbox letters. I never signed landscaping citations for weeds that'd been there since I moved in. Packages started vanishing. My mail was tampered with. My garden was trampled, and heavy footprints led right through my carrots. I installed cameras, and the footage caught a golf cart at 3:21 a.m., parked on the hill, Tammy's logo on the side. I filed a report. The sheriff called it passionate. That's when I realized how easy it is to be the outsider in a system that protects its own. Then things escalated in ways that don't fit a neighbor dispute. A formal complaint to the county accused me of erecting commercial structures on residential land. My solar panels and my chicken coop suddenly criminal if you ask the wrong person. Deputies arrived with a courtesy notice. I stood barefoot watching them talk to Tammy, who smirked like she'd finally found a way to wound me without sweating. And then one of the deputies said something that made my coffee drop. Someone had reported explosives in my outbuilding. Explosives. In my locked shed were nothing but a chainsaw, a mower, and propane for the grill. Whoever put that idea in an officer's head had been inside my property or had collaborators. I told the deputy to check it himself, and when he opened the shed, he looked at me like a man who'd been shown a trick. Nothing illegal, just tools. But the seed had been planted. Someone was willing to use the system to paint me as a threat. The low point came the morning I found the generator smoldering and Duke tied just feet away, leash tangled whimpering. A greasy rag had been shoved into the fuel vent. Someone had tried to ignite it with my dog inches away. I dumped rain barrel water on the embers, coughed until my lungs burned, and felt a cold new clarity. This wasn't about bylaws, it was about hurting me until I left. I called Joseph Stein, my lawyer, a quiet man with a reputation for taking the side of people who can't be bullied out of what's theirs. He said 3 words that honed everything into action: document, document, document. We fortified fences, added cameras, put up legal warnings in English and Spanish, and waited, but Tammy didn't wait. She filed a formal complaint accusing me of aesthetics violations. The county opened an investigation. Meanwhile, a man in a dark hoodie was caught on camera at 3:42 a.m. on my drive footage I sent to the sheriff. They ran a plate, and it came back to a name I'd hear more often: Alan Hennon, Tammy's cousin, and a former HOA board member booted for misusing funds. That was no longer rumor. It had a name and a vehicle. Then the chickens disappeared. 12 birds gone, no feathers scattered in panic, just boot prints and a drag mark like somebody came in with crates and took the rhythm of my mornings. That theft was a message: you can be made to feel small, removed, erased. I decided I was done reacting. Joseph and I filed civil suits for harassment, trespassing, attempted arson, stalking, and destruction of property. We sought emergency restraining orders. When the legal wheels spin slowly, light helps, so we took the story public. A Texas-based YouTuber named Brandon Cole came out, filmed on my porch, and the video went viral. People reacted. Former HOA members reached out. The story began to crack. That's when Lisa showed up on my doorstep, hands shaking, carrying a flash drive like contraband. She'd been on Tammy's board. What she handed over was the key: email surveillance logs, drone photos, templates for automated violation letters, a non-compliant file with names and photos, and instructions. She called Alan the cleanup guy. She said Tammy was running something bigger than a neighborhood patrol, coordinated intimidation financed through HOA funds and private contractors. We gave Lisa's drive to the sheriff. The county raided Tammy's office at dawn, news choppers circling above like vultures. Tammy was arrested. The raid turned up drones, burner phones, spreadsheets, and a private ledger that read like a ledger for harassment. The operation had a name on some of the documents: Leap Land Expansion and Acquisition Project, a privately funded network that bought influence and used enforcement as a weapon. It was worse than HOA drama. It was organized predation. Justice, in the loud, dramatic way movies promise, arrived piece by piece. Alan tried to disappear but was nabbed attempting to flee the country under a false name. Tammy flipped, gave names, and the web unraveled. The HOA board dissolved. The county launched audits and rewrote ordinances so no HOA could quietly act as a shadow enforcer again. People who'd been isolated found each other, and once isolated, people speak differently together, louder, truer, harder to ignore. That satisfaction, seeing bullies answer to more than smug smiles, was a sweet thing. But the real turnaround was quieter neighbors forming watch groups, a farmer donating a new flock of chickens, cameras left up not as paranoia, but as tools of protection. The solar panels hummed again. Scout and Duke chased each other through long grass. I still check the gate at night, and yes, I still flinch at an unfamiliar hum overhead, but peace returned in a guarded, resilient way, not naive, but ours. There's a moral that didn't come as a lecture, but as a cold, clear thought. One sleepless night, power accumulates. Where people stop asking questions and systems designed to protect communities can, if unchecked, become instruments of control. Visibility, community, and documentation matter. Secrecy is where abuse takes root. That lesson landed on me like a weight, and then like a shield: be seen, be loud, and when the law moves slowly, make the light move fast. The courthouse hearings felt like a reckoning. Neighbors stepped forward. Prosecutors displayed ledgers of diverted funds and burner phone records, and Tammy, once smug, had no explanation for the trail. The judges imposed fines, restitution, and sentences that made it clear you cannot turn civic structures into instruments of intimidation without consequence. The county rewrote ordinances, mandated audits for HOA finances, and a community watchdog group formed to monitor boards and protect outsiders. That work mattered. It turned private harassment into public accountability. I learned another thing too: publicity is messy, and sometimes public pressure is the only thing that moves a slow system. We used cameras, public records, and the press to make hiding impossible. None of that was pretty, and some nights I wondered whether the exposure was too much, but it stopped the violence and it saved lives. Justice was not only legal, it was collective. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Did we push back the right way, or did we cross a line by answering intimidation with exposure and public pressure? Was it reasonable self-defense, or did we risk becoming the same kind of force we fought? Tell me where you stand. Drop a comment with your story about HOA, horror neighbor harassment, or small-town power plays, what happened, what you did, and whether you think justice was served. If you've ever had to fight for your land, your peace, or your dignity, share it now, because silence is what bullies count on.